It has been 19 years since Bruce Dickinson last put out a solo album. Well, he's back. Tonight, we review the Mandrake Project. Next. Welcome, metal enthusiasts, to another episode of The Metal Dude Abides. This week, we're taking a look at the very latest from Bruce Dickinson, the Mandrake Project. As I said in the opener, this is the first time we've heard from Bruce Dickinson in a solo album for almost 2 decades. Now, one of the things that you'll probably know by now by watching the channel is I have very differing tastes on Iron Maiden. Really loved the stuff that they originally did with Paul Di'Anno, the very early years with Bruce Dickinson. But after Fear in the Dark, after 9 albums, Iron Maiden broke up. And honestly, I really haven't liked a lot of the things they've done since then. But one of the things that I loved was a Bruce Dickinson solo album by the name of The Chemical Wedding. I believe that's one of the greatest heavy metal albums of all time. And it really gave me hope that the Iron Maiden that I grew up on was back. Shortly after that album, Iron Maiden reformed, giving me more hope. I went rushing out to get their new reunion album. And I was a little disappointed. And I have been a little disappointed in Iron Maiden ever since. Not that they've been terrible, not that they've been bad, they just haven't been worthy of Iron Maiden. So when I heard that Bruce Dickinson was putting out a new solo album, I remember the old adage, when you lose something, go back to the last place you saw it, the last place you found it. And the last place I really found a great Iron Maiden album was in the Bruce Dickinson solo collection. So fast forward to 2023, and all of a sudden Bruce Dickinson's coming out with a new album, and he puts out the first single, Afterglow of Ragnarok. And I have to say, I was interested. Very good song, and it started to get my hopes up once again. Put out another video recently, Rain on the Graves, and once again, I'm thinking this is going to be good. This is going to be the album that brings me back into the Iron Maiden camp. This is going to be an all-time great album. But alas, this is not that album. The first few videos and songs gave me a little bit too much hope. Got my hopes up a little too high. This is a good album. This has some great songs. We'll talk about the entire album. But overall, I would say that this album is plagued by the same things that the modern day Iron Maiden is plagued by. And we'll talk about that. So we're going to go track by track through the album, tell you what I like, tell you what I don't like. There are some good things on this album, but there's also some bad things on this album. We're going to talk about all of it. So let's get started with our track by track listing. As I mentioned in the intro, the album starts with a fantastic song, Afterglow of Ragnarok. This is the song that gave me great hope that this album was going to be one of the all-time greats. It is one of those songs that you would describe as an epic song. Has great vocals by Bruce Dickinson, has some very interesting guitar work, it has some twists, it has some turns. Love this song. The one nitpicky thing I would say about this song, however, is that it comes at the very first track in the album. Now, I am one who believes in the structure of an album making a big difference. And when you start out an album with an epic type track, it's very hard to then follow it up. Generally, what I prefer, kind of like when you go to a concert, I think albums should have the same type of structure generally, where you start the concert off, you get everybody up and going, play a few fast tracks, play, some real catchy things, and then maybe you slow it down for a ballad or something, and then you start to slowly build up to this crescendo so that you get to this big epic song in the middle of the show. And if you see bands in the past have also followed the same formula, you look at, say, Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast, one of the albums that I look at as their standard bearer. They get started off with, the big creepy Number of the Beast, Run to the Hills, but it all leads up to this big crescendo, this big epic Hallowed Be Thy Name to close out the side of the album. Here, they put the epic song at the beginning. Again, great song, but I do think it's bad placement, because what are you going to follow this with? And unfortunately, where the critique of this album starts to go south is they followed it up with a song that could not keep the momentum. An album opener sets the tone for your album. So here we've had Afterglow of Ragnarok that says this is going to be a creepy, heavy, epic type of album. Well, you follow this up with Many Doors to Hell, which sounds like it's a great follow-up. But while it has a very serious sounding title, the song itself is kind of peppy, kind of 70s rock. I've heard many people describe it that way. But it's a very non-serious song in comparison to the big, heavy intro. So this song probably on its own would have been fine, but following Afterglow, it really is a head scratcher. And I remember, as I'm putting this album on and I'm listening to it, I'm instantly struck by, well, this has taken a very non-serious turn. I kind of like an album that can kind of hold that creepy vibe for a while. Maybe not like a horror movie, but a suspenseful movie, a movie where you're intrigued and there's a building up to this mystery or a murder or something happening. Here, it's almost like the album resets itself right off the bat to, again, more of a rock. I don't know how to describe it, but I know this. This song should not have followed that song because it really puts, kind of both in a bad light. So, song number 2, it's fine. It's not a terrible song by any means. It has its moments. It's very catchy. It's very hooky. It's maybe even what you would consider radio friendly. But when you go from creepy and dark to some sort of radio friendly, catchy tune, it can be a little bit jarring. And in this case, it doesn't work at all for me. So the album's already off to a really uneven start. And then we head for the next track. The next track, Rain on the Graves, is a hard one to describe because in one way it does kind of go back to this kind of creepy vibe that we had at the beginning of the album, but it also has a kind of a non-serious tone, kind of an upbeat song as well. I like this song. I liked the video that came out with it. It had this big epic production, Bruce Dickinson running around like a scared priest who is going in. A timid priest maybe is the best way to do it, finding his courage and going up against the devil in a battle of wits and music. But I give this song a pass here because I do respect the fact that Bruce Dickinson, this is one of those songs where it's a little quirky. It's a little off the beaten path. I like it when a band shows a little bit of pizzazz, shows a little bit of guts, doesn't just play the same old, take some chances, puts together some songs that are original and have a different vibe to it. So I have no problem here. I think this might have actually even worked as the second track. I think both of these songs, the first song and the third song, would have been a smoother transition from that serious Ragnarok song to, okay, we're still creepy, but we're getting a little fun, we're getting a little bit lighter. Then you could have maybe broke into a lighter song after that. So again, I think the placement of the second song kind of hurts both of the big songs on this album. But I will say that this is amongst one of my favorite songs on the album, and so far so good. A little bit uneven, but a couple of good songs right off the bat. I haven't given up hope yet. The fourth track is a song called Resurrection Man. It has a very cool intro. You could just picture Clint Eastwood riding into town, smoking that little stogie of his. Has a really good Western kind of vibe to it. It has some great guitar work. Again, it starts off kind of like with an old Western kind of vibe, breaks into some heavier, crunchier, I've heard even described Black Sabbath type riffs midway. The song itself is really good, but I don't like the vocals in this song, especially at the very beginning. I think Bruce Dickinson is known as one of the best vocalists in the history of heavy metal, and I'm not going to disagree with that. But we also have to understand that Bruce Dickinson is like getting up there. And as you get up there, sometimes you have to change the style of your voice from time to time. And in this song, it really feels like Bruce is trying to hit some notes that he's just no longer capable of hitting. And his voice sounds very almost off key and strained at the beginning of the song. It's rather disturbing. It's like, wow, that song would be really good. Why are you yelling through this song? Now he kind of tones it down later in the song. So after the first of the song that I really don't like, the singing is almost shrieky, as far as like you're trying to hit notes, dude, you can no longer hit. He kind of tones it down, and like after the first of the song, it's really good. Had he only started singing a little bit less of that earlier in the song. So it's a good song. This is one of the songs where you're really going to like the music, the riffs, the beat of the song, really good. But Bruce's vocals leave a lot to be desired here, almost to the point of it being uncomfortable and cringy. And it's too bad, because I think if this is where a good producer comes in and says, dude, you're not hitting those notes. Let's see if we can approach this in a little different way. If you look at what, say, Rob Halford is doing with Judas Priest, he doesn't sing the same way he sang in the 70s because he can't. But that's okay, because there's different ways to get to those passionate points in a song. You just got to go at it a little bit different. I wish someone would have had the courage to go up to Bruce and go, Bruce, we can't sing the song this way. You can't get there, brother. You couldn't get there with a ladder now. So, good song, bad vocals. But again, this is the fourth song, and it's kind of the fourth different style of song, which I do appreciate that. I do like a variety on my album. We started out very serious, very powerful. We went kind of light 70s. Then we turned around and did kind of a quirky song. This, like I said, has an old Western feel that then leads to a big, crunchy, heavier song. So far, it's uneven, but it's not bad. Things do start to take an interesting turn with the next song. After four very different tracks, we run into kind of the part of the album that's a little bit more, I guess you could say, traditional, more like what you would see from a Bruce Dickinson album. And it starts here with Fingers in the Wound. I don't care for this song much, but it is a more standard metal type of song. It's a little generic. There's better on this album. This is kind of one of those skippable points in the album, but it does start to bring a different vibe to the song, to the album, where we start to get into, again, a more traditional heavy metal sound, a more recognizable sound from Bruce Dickinson. And it starts a series of 2 or 3 songs here in a row that play a little bit better to maybe the Iron Maiden crowd. And speaking of the Iron Maiden crowd, they may be very familiar with the next song. In 2015, Iron Maiden put out an album called Book of Souls. And on that, the opening track asks the interesting question, if eternity shall fail. Well, in 2024, Bruce Dickinson answers that question with the song Eternity Has Failed. This is essentially the same song that was on the Book of Souls, with a little bit of a different wording, a little bit of a different arrangement, but it's essentially the exact same song. Now, the story behind this is that most of the music the songs that are on this Mandrake Project were written by Bruce Dickinson many, many years ago, but since he was with Iron Maiden, he kind of wasn't doing anything with them. Well, lo and behold, Steve Harris heard this song and said, Bruce, I would love this song to be on our Iron Maiden album. So even though this was always slated to be on this solo project, Steve Harris was able to convince Bruce Dickinson to put it on the Book of Souls. Now, Steve Harris has pretty good taste in music, and he's right. This is a very good song. I still think Afterglow is my favorite song on this album and the best song on this album, but this is probably my second favorite song on the album. And even though it's a bit of a repeat, I think it really brings the album up a notch. This is kind of that mixture of heavy metal that we're seeing on this part of the album, but also brings in that epicness that we saw earlier as well. So Afterglow, number 1. This bad boy is number 2, which leads to my third favorite song next. If you like fast, aggressive metal, this next song, Mistress of Mercy, is probably your cup of tea. Now, we've had some epic songs, we've had some catchy songs, we've had some kind of Western flair songs, we've had, an old Iron Maiden song brought back. There's been a lot of variety on this album, but there really hasn't been a real banger yet. That's where this song comes in. Mistress of Mercy is more of your traditional heavy, fast. Like this would be a good album opener. It's fast, it's heavy. It really sets the tone. Now, the thing is with this album in particular, this isn't the type of song that they're trying to produce. This is, clearly a one-off on an album that's much more interested in epic and atmosphere and these sort of things. But for us people who love a good fast one, they throw us a bone here. My third favorite song on the album, and really, unfortunately, maybe the last good song on this album. It's at this point of the album where Bruce Dickinson and company make a very interesting choice. They're going to go close the album off with not 1, not 2, but 3 very light ballad-like songs. Not the usual way an album would end, but that's what they chose to do here. Now, the very first ballad is a song called Face in the Mirror. This, by far, is my least favorite song on the album. And it really starts to get at one of my tropes that Iron Maiden's kind of gotten depended on, that has made their music less appealing to me over the last few years, and that is repetition. Um, honestly, Eternity Has Failed does it a little bit. There is, you start to get a little over dependent on the chorus and singing it over and over. This song is only 4 minutes, but yet the chorus of this song, Bruce Dickinson is going to sing Face in the Mirror 21 times. That's too much. There's no song there. It's just a chorus with some guitar solos mixed around it. If you really go back to Has Eternity Failed, there's a really cool, first, minute and a half, 2 minutes of that song is really kind of a cool, kind of a more of a talkative building to the crescendo type to the song. But once it hits its crescendo, you basically get the chorus and guitar solos. There's not much more to the song than that. Now, they're great guitar solos, and there's a beginning to the song that kind of makes up for the repetition at the end of the song. But this is modern day Maiden's biggest problem, in my opinion. Singing the chorus over and over and over again. One of the things that I get self-conscious about on this channel is I can repeat myself sometimes. You want to make a point, you bring it around. And when I watch myself back, I'm like, I need to stop doing that. No one wants to hear the same thing 3, 4, 5 times. And it's the same thing in music for me. I love a good chorus. It's the catchy part of the song. However, you can't just have a song where you repeat it over and over and over. And this song, it's a 4-minute song. It's not a long song. Some of the times I think that people often sing the chorus over and over again to take a 4-minute song to be a 6-minute song. This doesn't even make it 4 minutes, and I'm tired of this song by the time it ends. So this is not a good song. This is if there was one message I could get to my friends in Iron Maiden, and I could get to Bruce Dickinson, stop with the endless chorus. It's one of the reasons I just can't get into their music. This song, if someone asked me, why can't you get into Maiden? Why aren't you into Bruce Dickinson? I would show them this song. This is the poster child for what's gone wrong in the Maiden Bruce Dickinson camp. But the next song is another one of my, shall we say, points of disagreement with Bruce Dickinson and Maiden. To quote the great Charles Dickens, it was the best of times, it was the worst of time. Shadow of the Gods is the best of songs and the worst of songs, all wrapped into one. Complaint number 2 about the modern Maiden music machine. Sometimes you don't need to build a crescendo for 3 to 4 minutes before you get to the heart of the song. This song is about 7 minutes long, and the first 4 minutes of it is just wasting time. Now, some would say, well, it's building up to something. Okay, fine. I really think if you're going to have a song that builds up to something, the building up piece should be at most 2 minutes, minute and a half. But when you start getting to 3, 4 minutes into a song before it really kicks in, my attention span is out the window. If I had not been reviewing this song for this video, at about the 2-3 minute mark, I'd have probably just gone to the next one and said, well, this one's not my cup of tea. Now, if you stick around at about the 4 minute mark, this bad boy kicks off. If you take the last 3 minutes of this song, this is what I want from Bruce Dickinson. This is what I want from Iron Maiden. The last 3 songs are powerful. There's passion. It's moving. But you got to wade through this meandering first 4 minutes where they're building up the song. Stop it. You don't need a 4-minute buildup. So if you take the last 3 minutes, you got a great song. If you try to make me sit through 7 minutes of this, it's not that good. It's not worth 7 minutes of my time. I have a short attention span, people. Get to the point of the song, hook me in. Don't make me sit there and wonder, what are we doing? So this song has such potential. If it was just a little shorter, the intro was a little bit tighter. Again, if I could say this to the Iron Maiden group, if I could say this to Bruce Dickinson, shorten up the build and then spend more time in the epic part of the song, and I'd appreciate it more. As you can see, I'm starting to get a little bit more disgruntled with this album as we go, and unfortunately it's going to end on a sour note. All right, the final song on the album is called Sonata, Immortal Beloved, and let's just get to it. It's 10 minutes long, give or take. That's too long for my attention span. However, if you do something really creative and keep me interested through that 10 minutes, I'm not necessarily saying you can't ever have a song this long. I think one of the worst things that ever happened to Iron Maiden was the song Rime of the Ancient Mariner, because they put out an epic, very long song. I think that song's like 14 minutes, and it is wonderful, and the fans love it. But Iron Maiden took the wrong message away from that. They came away like, the fans want more long songs. No, we do not. We don't mind a long song if it's well done, but we want well done songs. Rime of the Ancient Mariner is an example of a very long song that doesn't feel long because a lot's going on in the song that keeps you interested. This song is 10 minutes of kind of the same thing. Beautifully sung by Bruce Dickinson. This is one of the better songs. If you're really into just listening to Bruce Dickinson's voice, you might really like this this song, because it is probably his best singing performance on the album. But again, 10-minute song, you got to pack a lunch, people. I'm not. It's not that good of a song to take, again, 10 minutes of my time. This has been, again, one of the tropes of Iron Maiden over the last few years, where they really like those long, drawn-out songs that don't do much. So that is the album. Some good stuff, some bad stuff, some in between. Let's go to my final thoughts on the album and then wrap this baby up. Anytime you judge an album after only 3 or 4 listens, it's a little bit precarious. Some of my favorite albums are albums that didn't strike me as being particularly good the first time I heard them. And this is a concept album based on a comic book, I believe, that I have not read. I think concept albums traditionally sometimes are a little bit longer to get into. And then when you find out and you kind of get into the groove of the underlying story, you like it a lot better. Dio's Magica is a good example of an album I listened to a few times, didn't really care for, but then went in, read the story, listened to the story, and then the music started to come a little bit more alive. So all those things means maybe over time this will grow for me in the way I like this. But for now, I have to give this like a 5 out of 10. It's a pretty mediocre effort. I've heard a lot of people say this is Bruce Dickinson's finest work. I will say this, it's not even close to his best work. As I've lauded for decades, if you're an Iron Maiden fan, or if you just like heavy metal, and if you've never heard The Chemical Wedding, just stop what you're doing right now. Go get that album. Go on Spotify, listen to that album. It is amazing. This is nowhere near that, unfortunately. So I will continue to hold out hope that Iron Maiden and Bruce Dickinson return to form. I love their early stuff, and I have been, a little disappointed in their last stuff, but I'm not giving up on you, Iron Maiden. I know there's another great album in there somewhere, and I'll patiently wait. And while we wait for that next great album, what a great time to subscribe to my channel. We are always looking for updated content. We do a series on the Grammys where we go year by year, give out awards for which albums deserve to be the best of the year, since the Grammys have failed to do that in the past. We also do keep you up to date on albums. Next week, another legendary heavy metal band, Judas Priest, will be putting out their new album, Invincible Shield. We'll be reviewing it right here next week. So another album review and another chance for one of these veteran bands to knock it out of the park. So join us on Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time and see what we think of that Judas Priest album. In the meantime, this is the Metal Dude signing off. You all take care.